Hopefully you had a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. I know we certainly did in our household, and it's great to be kind of back in the saddle again with you folks. I thought this Advent season maybe try to just do things a little bit differently. Talking some, bopping in and out. We've been looking at the Gospel of John, looking at that, but also looking at some other parts, to sort of help us get ready for the Christmas season. And I know that for a lot of us, especially my profession, we can go through sort of this repetition of the Christmas story, the familiar stories. And then I want to look at some of the other parts of it as well. Some of the other parts we don't talk about as much, rarely get preached on, actually, rarely get discussed because they're kind of bigger picture things and yet are really valuable to consider. So today what I want to talk about is just starting with a basic idea of prophecy, and I'm going to look at a couple of those this week. So Jesus was born, 2021 years ago. That's how we hold it historically, right? But we know from reading the Old Testament that there was this prophecy that the Messiah would come, and that prophecy was thousands of years old, and that Jesus actually fulfilled that prophecy in some people's minds, and they became the Christian church. And there are many in the Jewish faith who still await the birth of a Messiah. And this is not to prove that Jesus was the Messiah or wasn't the Messiah. It's to talk about what the prophecy really is all about. And there's some incredibly powerful parts to it. So I'm going to flip my screen here and read to you a beautiful prophecy that comes out of Genesis. And this prophecy here was to Jacob of Jacob's ladder fame, if you're familiar with that story. And here's what God offers to Jacob. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. Now, what's significant about that, I find, is we see that kind of reference again and again and again in terms of the prophecies and in terms of the Christmas story. That idea of blessings to all nations, blessings to all nations. Now, that's really fascinating when you look at the historical time period. Even when you look at it at our time period, it's actually pretty radical stuff. Why is that? Well, I think back then and certainly today, human beings tend to, orient themselves to a certain form of tribalism. And some of that tribalism certainly is healthy and good, and some certainly is unhealthy and not good. And it's where our group identity becomes incredibly important. When you look back to the Old Testament and the Jewish tradition, there has been this long-standing tradition that the Jewish faith were a chosen people, and many many groups have had that feeling in their existence. Americans clearly as a nation have a feeling of sort of chosenism. I shouldn't say that. Sorry, chosenness. I know as an American history teacher, we talk about American exceptionalism, and that's a feeling of chosenness, that we are a chosen people. And does that matter or not? Well, it seems that there's a universal pattern here that's important. It's very significant to have a certain sense in our lives, I believe, that we are indeed chosen. Now, that's not making us better than other people or anything like that. And it's this idea of chosenness that actually should be universalized. Yep, I feel that I should have a certain sense of being chosen. You should, other communities should, other groups should. That's actually a healthy thing. And you think about folks like with your children, right? Don't you want them to feel a special sort of love, a special sort of chosenness, a special sort of care? That's a really, really important part of the human life. And we can't stop there. If we just sort of sit in that place that we are chosen, that leads to a really debilitating arrogance. And frankly, people who believe they're the chosen one are not terribly fun to be around. That gets tiresome pretty quickly. And it's a place to start. It's not a place to finish. What we want to do is we want to move that chosenness out and start as best we can to share that feeling, not in terms of like, well, I'm a chosen person, and I want you to just feel some of that light. That's grotesque, right? It's about this idea, this feeling of chosenness, this idea of God's chosenness, and the idea that you're chosen too. The idea that that love is to be shared, and that recognition that we're all to see the chosenness in each other and to really pull that forward. That's where it gets into this really, really beautiful flip into the idea of a blessing for all nations. Like, do you get how good that is? That's so much part of the idea of gospel, good news. Like, this is to be good news for all nations, for all nations. And it's why I think so much of the Christmas story, it always starts at the lower tiers. The people who don't get it are the people from upper tiers, but where it starts at those lower tier places, of those places of deep humility, and regardless of your circumstances, whether they're advantaged or not. I think we all have that very humble place where God can rest, where we can start to feel a certain chosenness, however subtle, and then we can start to move that out there into the world as adults, and we can start to share that and to help other people feel that chosenness too. And then again, to come to that point, this is good news for all nations. This is good news for all nations. Sort of a sermon in the box. I do a lot because I think it's so true. Is and it connects to this, where Jesus says, you shall be a light, and don't cover your light with a bushel. Who does that, right? And you guys have heard me say this little sermonette before, but it feels time to repeat it. The whole point of that is, yep, Jesus says, don't let your light shine, don't cover it with a bushel. And we always miss the second part, which is let your light shine so that others can see, right? So that it can be good news for all nations. I love that. And so for today, folks, let's just remember that this Christmas season, this message, this feeling, this love, this connection, that really it's to be for all nations. It's, of course, we get to enjoy it in a certain sense, as in a very specific way, in a chosenness, as it were. But then it's also got to move to, and you're chosen to, and so is the whole world. Hallelujah, and allow that to ripple out. So that's my thought for today, folks. Like, good news, gospel means good news. May it be good news to all people, to all nations, to everyone, and may that include you. So that's my thought for today, folks. And what I want to do now is we're going to do our little, if you're joining us for the first time, we're going to do our little meditation. Our meditation will be followed by a prayer will be followed by a blessing. And then if you would like to, we streamed a number of different platforms, but I'll be reading comments off of our platform on New Church Live's Facebook page. So with that, dear friends, let's all get a big breath. Listen to the bell until it stops ringing. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and bring you peace and bring you home. Amen. All right, friends. Well, let's take a look here at any comments. And again, you can put them on New Church Live's Facebook page, and I will be able to read them off of that. It just takes me a minute to get them queued up here because I can't read it off of the platform that we stream off of every morning. All right, let's say hi to those who've joined us this morning. All right, Kim, good morning all. And Kim, that's good because it's about, about good news for everyone. That's good stuff. Liz, great to have you joining us this morning as well. Paige, good morning. And Paige, every time I make up a word, I cringe in fear that you'll call me out on having made up another word of the English language. I know you call it with a little giggle too. So all good, right? Sherry, happy Monday to you, my friend. Hope you have a great week ahead. Amy, good morning to you. And Amy, you know what? It just made my heart sing to see those family pictures of you and your whole crew together. And oh, what a blessing that must have been. I can only imagine how precious that was. Jean, good morning to you. And yes, good morning to everyone. Susan Marie, I like that perspective. It goes along with how you ask someone how they are and they respond, I am blessed. It would be nice if they added the response on your blessed too. You know what? Sue, that is a great one. I love that. That preaches. That certainly preaches. Um, there are questions. Carl writes, very true, Carl. Questions about being chosen, why we get what we get in life, the good stuff, the bad stuff, the opportunities, the failures, good news, good questions for this day. It is a great question. Like, what does it mean to be chosen? And yeah, I mean, for me, Carl, I love this quote, and many of you have heard me say it many times. But the idea of this is from Miroslav Volf, who said, "Christian hope is this. Christian hope is love stretching into the future." And there's a way in which chosenness for me kind of rests in that the idea that regardless of the ins and outs of life, that there's a that love will stretch into the future, um, even with the challenges of life. But my goodness, Carl, that's a great question. Marcus, good morning to you. And Sherry, happy Monday. Thank you for sharing that, and good morning to all as well. So there's the thoughts for the day, folks. Again, we got a lot of folks who join us sort of later on in the day or later on in the week. Whatever time you're joining us, feel free to shoot me a comment or leave a comment on Facebook, and I'll try to get a response to you as quickly as I can. And yeah, just wishing you folks a beautiful week ahead, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.